Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our spoiler review of Wandavision, Episode 6, called All New Halloween Spooktacular. So a nice little wave and nod to The Simpsons.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
I mean, they call it the Halloween Spooktacular every year.
Do they?
So not that we watch The Simpsons, but like we said, we're going to be spoiler heavy. There's 3 major things in this episode, and you thought this was going to be take a week off and do some character.
No, they don't have enough time for that.
No.
I think each one's got to be packed.
So this is it starts off with the previously on,
Yep.
which they've been showing the last couple of weeks to kind of remind people where we're at, because we're in this, that if we're going to do the sitcom thing and talk about the sitcom part, it was like the early 90s where they started doing, if I remember correctly, it was like the early 90s.
Yeah, I think maybe 70s and 80s they did it.
Maybe they did. I just didn't, I guess I was either too young or didn't care enough to remember that going on. Maybe like on Dallas and stuff like that they did it.
Dallas, and I was thinking like 8 is enough, maybe.
Oh yeah. Family Ties didn't really do it, and that was kind of what the last episode was the Family Ties Full House kind of thing.
Yep.
But this one is set in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
At least 2004.
Right, because not Parent Trap, the other one.
The Incredibles.
The Incredibles was playing at the cinema.
Yes.
And that's 2004.
Yes.
But then Parent Trap was also playing, and that's 1998. So
it was like a cult classic night, I guess, or whatever. So it's at least 2004. I'm going to say mid to 2000s. I mean, it's supposed to be small town New Jersey, right, with Westview.
Yeah, so they're rerunning an old movie.
Whatever they have. But it was, as soon as they did that, that's a major clue for what's going on with Billy and Tommy.
Right.
And how, like, with...
Evan Peters.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember it's Wicca and Speed.
Right.
And
Speed is like Dash.
And is like Dash. And so he has a Dash kind of moment where he realizes he has super speed. So he starts running around like Dash does.
Yeah.
And as soon as they like the billboard says Incredibles and he's doing the Dash thing, it's like, I was like, oh, okay, now everything. Let's talk about the 3 major things that we got in this episode.
Okay.
We've got a lot of interaction between Pietro and Wanda.
Right.
And what we've got with them is Pietro obviously knows.
Right. Because he's telling her, how are you doing all this? How are you keeping it all together? And, so he knows.
Yeah. And but
he doesn't know why, because they have that moment in the town square or whatever, where he's like, I'm your brother. You can tell me what's going on.
Right. And she finally opens up about being sad, being alone.
Right.
And which ties into the commercial, that 90s claymation commercial that we got with the shark. Where the guy stuck on the island is trying to open the container of Go-Gurt, essentially, and can't get it open. He dies of hunger, starvation, whatever.
Which anyone who's tried to open one of those packages knows that's a true thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing. So like, we get the physical representation of being alone on a desert island and stuff like that. With that, as we're also having the conversation between Pietro and Wanda about like, she doesn't really remember how it all started, but now that we're here, and I don't know if it's right, and Pietro is like, I don't know what you've built. You've built this utopia for yourself and for us, and so how can you be mad about it?
Right.
And that's
right.
And so he's in on it, but him being kind of the boy child version, the Evan Peters Quicksilver boy child version, I really like. I really like that, because the Aaron Taylor Johnson version is very stoic and has been through the fires of war and stuff, and Evan Peters one is the cocky kid who has super speed, who can do everything really fast. And so I'm glad he's playing that version.
Yeah, but kind of over the top. Like, really.
It's like a character of his character.
A caricature of his character.
Yeah. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah. It's weird. I
appreciate it, because if you're coming at from an angle of Wanda brought him in,
right,
just like she brought the body of Vision in,
right, but she brought it's I don't understand, because in that whole conversation, she looks away, she looks back, and he is dead with the wounds that have happened to Aaron Taylor Johnson's Pietro, with the bullet holes and and everything, which Evan Peters' character is not dead in those movies.
Right.
Now, I'm sure something happened to him in the comics, because they kill off and bring back people all the time.
It's the
but
comics.
He has Aaron Taylor Johnson's wounds, but he is the Evan Peters. It's very confusing.
It's very confusing, but it's also like the horror shot that we got with Vision with the Mind Stone removed. It's like a part of her memory is trying to come in and trying to project on what's going on with this particular person. So she has that remembrance of how he got shot, but she's projecting it onto whoever this is.
Right.
And I'm wondering if, like, because they talked about in the previous episode that she can physically change the things that are inside Westview, the hex of Westview. I wonder if she just took one of the people that it was in the town subconsciously and put Pietro on that, like, changed his body and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know, because...
Or he came through a wormhole that she is creating with the hex.
Right. Because you have the issue of Aaron Taylor Johnson's character's body.
Right.
He's been dead for quite a while now.
Right.
And then you've got the issue of, this isn't even him. This is
the
Evan Peters version.
Yeah, it's a different version.
Yeah.
And
how did she get him? And
but the more they talk, the more she opens up about the whole what's going on with her.
Yeah.
And this is really the first sign that we get that they've been hinting at that it's her the whole time. And everybody's assumed that it's her the whole time.
Yeah.
But this was her. And last week when she came outside of the dome and went after Hayward and everybody, I think that was last week. Like, all of that too was, that, like, it's for her to finally admit it, that it is actually her, is a big deal.
Right.
Like, I think it's a big deal that she's actually admitting there's something going on.
Right.
So we have that all going on. By the way, it's Halloween. So she's wearing her Scarlet Witch from the comics costume.
Right.
And she said she's a soothsayer from
Sokovia. Yeah.
I think is what she said.
Yeah. A soothsayer.
Fortune teller.
Something
like that.
Yeah. Healing witch. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah.
And then Vision is wearing his Vision costume from the comics. And he makes a point of course I'm wearing it. It was the only thing in my closet.
Right.
And she, like, thanked him, like, oh, thank you for wearing the costume. I know how ridiculous it is. And he's like, well, it was the only thing in my closet, so I have to put it on.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a pause.
There was a little bit of a look.
Yeah.
Like, disgust, resignation. I don't know, on Vision's face.
Yeah.
Like, it was the only thing in my closet. Yeah.
And there's also a interaction between WandaVision and Pietro through all of that, and there was a couple times in there where they're like, do you want me to start again? Like, there was like a kind of a pause, like, and then there were again later when Wanda's talking to Herb,
right,
and Herb kind of like, you want me to do this again, kind of thing.
So
there was a lot of punching holes in the illusion of this episode going on.
Well, and so there's all this stuff going on that she's not aware of too. Like, so Vision,
That's
goes...
the second big thing that happens in this episode. Go ahead.
He's like, I'm going to go do the neighborhood watch because kids like to toilet paper and, on Halloween. And then she meets up with...
I want to just point out the June beaver kind of...
the cleavers.
The cleavers like, oh, shuck. It's the 2000. Come on.
Right.
Vision. Okay, go ahead.
Right. And then she runs into Herb, who's on the phone. I think, was he on a phone or walkie-talkie or something with somebody... about something that was going down. And she's like, well, just send Vision over there. And he's like, why? Vision's not on. So he went to do this thing that she was not aware of.
Right.
Because she was like, you're not going with us. And then she finds out he didn't even go do that. So he's like completely rogue. And
he's rogue, and Pietro's keeping Wanda busy.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm wondering if there was something in there where Pietro's there to help smooth the transition out of being in the Hex.
Maybe.
And with the conversation, because Vision goes, and from the trailer, the lady who's pinning up the ghost to the line, so they show that, and it's like on a GIF loop or GIF loop.
No, it's GIF. Graphic interface.
Don't come at me, whatever. It's a
GIF.
And so, but she's crying.
Yeah.
And then as all that's going on, the real world stuff is going on, and they're able to kind of see where... We'll get to the real world stuff in a minute because there's some huge stuff in there too. But they're able to see where Vision is and everybody else inside the town,
right?
Because Hayward has set up some kind of
surveillance
or whatever,
Vision,
and everybody's standing still, and Vision's the one that's moving around, and Vision realizes that he goes to a cul-de-sac and everybody's standing still.
Right. They're just waiting for Wanda and the kids to appear so that they can start up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of Vision even tries to go talk to somebody, and she won't. She doesn't move.
Yeah, yeah. So I just had a thought.
Yes.
What if Evan Peters Pietro has been sent in there by Hayward? Maybe Hayward figured out how to get him out of whatever.
Yeah.
And they sent him in to get her to open up about what's going on and to distract her and to all this stuff.
That goes into...
Or it could just be some person that he sent in that she turned into Pietro.
Right. Like he knew enough stuff for the background or whatever, because a lot of the conversation they have is very leading by Pietro.
Yeah, he's trying to get it out of her.
And he remembers certain things, but he always says... I don't quite remember everything, just like Vision does.
Right, because it's not his life.
Right.
He's her brother, sort of, but it's not his life. So I'm wondering, because Hayward's got some stuff going on in the background that we don't know anything about. Yeah. He's definitely got stuff going on. So if
you go on the theory that he is doing this on his own or being influenced by...
Hayward?
No. Hayward is being Mephisto.
Okay.
If Mephisto is the one who's kind of pulling the strings on Hayward, and Hayward's the one who leaked the information to Wanda that Vision was it was going against his will,
right?
Like he had said in the previous episode, where they were trying to use him and his Ultron kind of like AI,
right,
to try to build something. If Mephisto is the one who tells Hayward, hey, let's put this out there, Wanda finds out, they don't really put up a fight when Wanda shows up the sword to take what's left of Vision.
Yeah. And
then that sends her off the deep end, off to whatever, and Hayward's then trying to control what's going on in the Hex. Yeah. And if you add all those strings, it makes complete sense.
String over here and the string over there.
With Vision running around Westview trying to figure out what's going on, he comes across Agnes in the car.
Right.
And Agnes is just sitting there like the people who aren't directly in the line of sight.
She's talking a little bit.
Yeah.
But not like very, like she's off somewhere else.
Yes. And Vision she gets lost.
Yeah,
in the town that she grew up in, I think is what she said. And Vision does the mind thingy.
He touches her, like we've seen in the trailers.
Yeah, and she freaks out, obviously, because she's awake now.
Yeah.
And a lot of their conversation was like, "You're an Avenger. Are you here to save us?" was the first thing she said.
Yeah, and he's like, "What's an Avenger?"
Yeah, and then they have an interaction, and in that interaction, we get the part from the trailer where she asks him if she's dead, because you are.
Yeah.
And
so she's remembering all the outside world stuff.
Yeah,
because at this point he is dead.
And there's also that moment of, we can't leave. Nobody can leave. We're stuck here.
Yeah.
And so, she like goes hysteric. He turns her off.
Yeah.
She turns around and goes back into town. So she's aware enough that even though she's not in the line of Wanda and the kids, Agnes has got. So if she is what everybody thinks that she is, who is Wanda's kind of mentor kind of person, whatever, she might have some free will abilities and whatever.
Maybe, or it's maybe just because she is a reoccurring character on the show.
Yeah.
And so she keeps her a little more active in her mind, whereas Neighbor 3, if you're talking about shows and credits, Neighbor number 3, who they're not. I can't waste brain space on Neighbor number 3, but I can on Wanda because she's a reoccurring character.
Right.
Or Agnes.
Yeah. Vision leaves. Vision goes to the edge of the hex and leaves, and
tries to leave.
And as he gets out, pieces of him, because he's not a complete thing in the real world.
Right.
And so as he gets outside and it kind of starts pulling him back, it starts pulling pieces of him back.
Yeah.
And while that's all going on, Darcy comes running out from her research. We have to get to that stuff. And she's like, help him. And Hayward grabs her and cuffs her to the car.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Let's talk about the stuff before we get to the big thing at the end. Let's talk about what's going on in the real world.
Okay.
We've got Rambeau, Jimmy, and Darcy all working together to try to tell Haywood he's being a douchebag.
Yeah.
And
I think they've kind of come to the point that they're like, we need to just go find some outside help, not Hayward, because he's playing for a different team.
Right. He's playing for, if at the very minimum, his team and not Sword.
Yeah.
And so they arrest him and they try to get him off the base, and Jimmy straight out cold cuts somebody. And I'm like,
amazing.
and they have a thing, and Darcy's like,
standing there. Jimmy and Monica are wrestling around or whatever, and like Darcy's just standing there like usual.
Was anybody gonna tell me what the plan was?
Yes. Darcy, this is your MO. You stand off to the side while blah, 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 and then you're like, hey, here I am. The only time she ever did anything was in 2, right? In Thor
and the Dark World.
The Dark World. Yeah, and that was only because there was a cute guy involved.
Right, there was a cute guy involved. That's a great pull. But they all go to the server tent, I guess.
Yeah.
And they break into what Hayward is actually doing.
Yep.
And there's layers upon layers upon layers of different things that they're finding in this conversation. And that's where we get Hayward's tracking Vision and not Wanda. And so we have all of that going on. So he obviously is more worried about Vision than Wanda.
Yeah.
And he's blaming Wanda for whatever he was doing to Vision. Back to our conversation.
Well, yeah, and if they set it up that they wanted her to take Vision's body, which is kind of what we were saying.
Right.
They didn't really put up much of a fight. She just came in and took his body. They could easily have put a tracker in him.
Yeah.
So they set up a tent. They pull him apart. They pretend to be doing whatever it is they're doing. put a tracker in him. She shows up. Oh, don't take him. No. And
Right.
then she takes him off. Well, now they've got a man on the inside.
Yeah. And he has a conversation with Monica and Jimmy and everybody in the command center, and he talks about how there was no superpowered heroes during the 5 years of the blip. And he talks about how you don't understand, you weren't here, and kind of takes a shot at Monica about I'm glad you weren't, or you don't know, like directly taking a shot at her not being there and her mom dying.
Right.
And so
she didn't have to survive they all had to live for 5 years with half the population gone
and no superheroes around to
but
help.
that's not true because Captain America is a superhero.
And but they were like, everybody was doing something outside of helping the everyday people. Like even Black Widow, not Scarlett Johansson, is actually played by Scarlett Johansson.
Black Widow.
But Black Widow is like running.
Natalie. Nat.
Yeah. Nat, like, wow, we are terrible. 5, 4, 3,
Scarlett Johansson.
2.
Black Widow.
But she's running what's left of the Avengers from Avengers HQ, and Rocket's off with Nebula, and Captain Marvel's off, and Rhodey's off, and like everybody's kind of off doing something different, and so they're not really taking care of the individual people.
Yeah.
It's much the Superman problem. Superman can't save everybody, and so if somebody doesn't get saved, they blame Superman for not being saved.
Right.
And so if you're having that conversation, he blames everybody with superpowers for not being there or not stopping the blip,
right?
Which is much of the conversation we had about that they had with Monica's reaction to being Captain Marvel being brought up, that she has some kind of issue with what happened with
maybe that's what she's upset about, is that she allowed that to happen and Monica didn't get to be there when her mom died.
Right.
That
Exactly.
Might be what
so
that is.
so you have all that layers going on there.
Yep.
They find all this information on his drive, and one of the things in there is Monica's blood work that Hayward had on his drive. And Darcy talks about how you've been through the rift twice, and in that you've been changed permanently on a cellular level.
Yep. And if you go back again, it'll be permanent.
It'll be permanent or something like that. Now we know from the comics that Monica Rambeau is Photon, and then she takes up the mantle of Captain Marvel down the line, right?
Okay.
In the comics. And then we had the picture last week where it was just like a glow, like, and it looked like
outline,
shoulders or something like that, or whatever.
Of her body
if you really paid
instead
attention.
of an actual X-ray.
So the rumor has been, the fan theory has been, that whatever happens in WandaVision is the catalyst to bring the X-Men in, or mutants, into the MCU.
Right. Okay.
This is a huge Easter egg for me for that.
So is she considered a mutant?
I don't know if she's actually considered a mutant. Much like Captain Marvel, she's been altered.
Or Captain America.
Right.
They were normal people that got... And I thought mutants were born that way.
They have a genome in their system that gets activated.
Yeah,
essentially,
but they
when
were
they hit
born
puberty.
that way. They weren't made, created
so
in a lab
she could have... could really easy say this genome was in your system the whole time,
and going through the rift, activated it,
and then you go, and then you have what happens in the last final scene, which is Billy freaks out because he can feel that Vision's getting pulled apart,
right? And he's the witch,
he's the witch. He's kind of the Wanda version. He can manipulate minds and feel stuff and whatever. So he can feel Dad getting pulled apart.
Yeah.
And Wanda freezes everybody. Her eyes go glowy red, and then they poosh.
Yeah.
And she pushes the Shima
the
out.
Shima, the dome,
and everybody at the sword base like freaks out and leaves. Now, Jimmy,
I don't know where you're gonna go.
Jimmy and Monica had already left because they're gonna meet their astrophysicist in this tank thing over the ridge, which everybody's saying it could be Reed Richards. It would be amazing if it's Reed Richards. It's the only one that makes any sense. It could be somebody else, just whatever. And so
Darcy's still chained to the truck.
And the shimmer wall goes forward like an annihilation. It keeps expanding.
Yeah.
And so it expands out, and actually the really cool shot is the from the ridge line, you can actually see that it's actually hex shaped. But it expands out and it takes over the sword camp
base,
and everything changes,
and she turns him into a circus.
And the car dealership changes and stuff, but and the clowns and all this stuff, but we don't see what happens to Darcy,
right?
And so you have Hayward and his little SUV of doom got out,
right?
And Jimmy and Monica got out, and that's how the episode ends. Is that whole big, oh, by the way, this isn't just a little self-contained thing that can't get any bigger. It can get bigger.
Right. So, I mean, ultimately, she could consume the world. Now, I think that would probably take, we've seen that her trying to just run a small town was a little too taxing, right? She even complained about it in a couple episodes ago about, you don't know what it's like trying to, mowing the lawn and taking out your garbage, and I'm manipulating all these people. And we see in this one that she's just not. The people on the outskirts, she's like, whatever, neighbor number 3, I'll get to you later.
Right. I feel the way they have, if we engage in the story that's being told from us right now, to us at least for right now, there's going to be a scene in the last episode where she has her breakdown again, like she did in Sokovia when she was holding the fort and Pietro dies and she explodes out and kills a ton of the Ultron robots.
Right.
But she was still very young in her use of powers and understanding her powers. And
I don't know though, because she was really devastated when she in Civil War, right, where when she grabs the bomb or whatever and throws it up in the air and it hits that building and takes out all those innocents, she was pretty destroyed over that. So if she did that again, she'd wipe out everybody that's inside of the Shimmer.
I'm more thinking of the Shimmer is going to expand out and encompass the Earth.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure that she's struggling to control a small town.
Right, but I'm not saying that it's expand the whole Earth to control her. I think it's just going to
she's going to lose control of the
and
Shimmer.
It's just going to continue to expand, and as it does that and engulfs the Earth, that genome that we were talking about earlier is what's going to be activated planet-wide.
Yeah.
Instead of the concept of she's opened a wormhole to the multiverse, she's just going to she's finally going to have to face the fact that Pietro and Vision are dead.
Right.
And I take it as Hayward is somehow going to be on the inside and he's going to kill Billy and Tommy. If he kills Billy and Tommy, she does House of M, and instead of saying no more mutants, she explodes.
More mutants.
She does that, or she just does the straight out explosion scream.
Right, but if that activates a bunch of mutants, then it's no comma more mutants.
which would be amazing. Like now you've taken what House of M is, which is the everybody's been saying it's House of M, House of M, House of M.
But they've never taken any comic directly. They've always taken pieces.
They've taken pieces and parts.
Yeah.
This is House of M. This is we haven't even talked about the costumes yet. Yeah. Jesus. You're getting the MCU, you're getting House of M, you're getting the actual what do they call it? Wanda and Vision in the Suburbs comic. Like you're taking all these different things and you're adding in the sitcom feel and all that stuff. And we still haven't really gotten any kind of information on what Sword is. Like we know as the viewers that Sword is the extension of Shield, or the new,
and it's the space.
It's the space
shield
stuff, whatever.
Right, which is what they think, where they think Fury is, which kind of leads me like I think that Sword is like Shield in that Shield had Hydra people embedded in there, and I think Hayward is whoever the new Hydra is embedded in Sword. And it's not really Sword that's doing this.
They did a really good job of like eliminating Hydra from the story arc, and so
there's always going to be a bad guy.
There's always going to be a bad guy. What I'm saying is I hope it's not Hydra that actually is.
No.
Right.
Yeah, just the new Hydra. I think and they could be aliens, right? Because Sword is in space. So
if you're doing Secret Wars, and Secret Wars is the Kree Skrull War. Yeah. If you're gonna do that, and we know that's coming,
it could be Kree. No, Kree don't change. Only Skrull do.
Only
right?
Skrulls do, but Kree is Rowan the Accuser.
Right.
And so you have all of that hanging over everybody still too, because it's not like they went away. Right. And we know from Far From Home that we have Skrulls on Earth actually working within Shield. So you have all that kind of like, it's really interesting. Like the way they're telling this particular story is that we as the viewers know more than the people inside the show.
Yeah.
And so that gives us the opportunity to do a lot more speculation on what what's this mean and what's this mean and what's this thing.
Right.
The costumes, we have to talk about the costumes really quick. We did talk about Wanda and Vision.
Wanda's wearing her old comic book costume. Vision's wearing his comic book costume.
Pietro and Billy are both wearing, or Tommy are both wearing the old school Quicksilver outfit from the original comics, and then Billy is wearing a version of his Wiccan outfit. It's a headband and a cape and stuff like that with all the right colors and stuff. And it's kind of important because they've been using the colors of Tommy and Billy from the comics as their 90s costume based colors,
as their primary clothes colors.
And they've been doing that with Wanda, and they've been doing that with Vision and hints of greens and stuff like that. The only thing that I didn't get was the Ellis and Rolling Hills street signs.
Yeah, they panned down when Agnes was sitting in her car, like after she turned around and left. Vision was standing there in the street looking at the Shema, and it's an overhead shot. Like Vision is very minuscule in the shot. The main thing is the stop sign and the two street signs.
I wonder if Ellis is the original creator of
the
comic and stuff like that.
Because they have been doing the credits are people who are actually in the design and
the opening credits was Malcolm in the Middle.
The credits in the song were Malcolm in the Middle. The kitchen to me felt like Roseanne. Some people were saying Family Ties again. I think Family Ties was last week.
It's the steps, I think, is the big thing, because
and there were steps in Roseanne.
And there was.
It wasn't quite as like, for anybody that watched Roseanne. I watched a lot of Roseanne. Roseanne was more like step up from a trailer park.
Yeah.
And this was, nicer and cleaner, although
very
they
much
still
Malcolm in the Middle. Oh God damn it! We have So there's it's going to be an hour and a half long review on a 35-minute episode. I don't care. So So there's a scene with Pietro and Wanda, and they're walking down the street, and Pietro is kind of like hinting at maybe using his powers to help the kids
trick or treat.
Trick or treat. This is before Billy and Tommy kind of figure out their powers and stuff like that. It's daylight. This is before Wanda talks to her. And they have a conversation, and I missed what the line was to get to the line I heard. I missed it. But she said, "That's very kick-ass." So, how meta is this that Kick-Ass, who starred Aaron Taylor Johnson and Evan Peters, so
is Evan Peters in?
Yes,
he's one of his friends.
He's one of his friends. Oh. He's like geeky with like big floppy hair and stuff. But the meta-ness of I mean, the show, it's meta itself anyways, because you're doing the sitcom thing anyways. But like, it's meta within the meta of the meta. It's like, and it wasn't like they just kind of, that was kind of a kick-ass scene. Like it wasn't that. There was a moment of pause after the line was said.
Yeah, I didn't. You were like, "Oh my god, that was so meta," and I didn't hear any of it, so I had no idea.
Yeah,
what you were talking
it was
about.
just like they're just Marvel again pointing out that it's ridiculous that we have two Quicksilvers,
right?
And the one that we all fell in love with inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't fucking here,
right?
It's the one from Fox, and so. And
Which
they
makes me very sad.
Movie.
I'm so sad that because I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I was so mad that they killed him. I'm like, come on, give him at least a couple more movies before you kill him off, you know?
At that point in time, they couldn't really use Quicksilver. They wanted the way they wanted to use Quicksilver.
Because of
his death is the catalyst for a ton of stuff going forward. For Hawkeye, for Wanda, for Tony, for like...
I know.
And
I just wanted Aaron Taylor Johnson to be in it for a little bit longer.
One last thing, I swear. There was a story that came out a couple weeks ago, and it kind of came back around. Elizabeth Olsen said that we have a Luke Skywalker kind of cameo. And then Evan Peters showed up last week. Previous to that story was a story that came out in like the fall. And Paul Bettany said in one interview, and then the Marvel sniper showed up, that he gets a chance to work with somebody, a thespian that he has always wanted to work with.
Uh-oh.
Like a major...
Magneto or...
It only makes sense that it's Ian McKellen's Magneto.
Yeah.
If we're going to have a scene of the multiverse,
it could be Patrick.
It could be Patrick Stewart, but Ian McKellen. Think about Paul Bettany coming up in the UK in the Shakespeare thing.
Yes, and Ian McKellen is huge.
I mean, not that Patrick Stewart isn't.
Yeah, but Ian McKellen, if you like in the UK, he is very thespian. He is very into the theater.
He is the thespian of thespians in the world outside of Duty Gents and that kind of thing. But like having a chance to work with him, so even if we have the shimmer encompasses the whole Earth and activates the genes or whatever, we could have the House of M version of the universe where Magneto is king of the planet Earth with his kids, and so it's Ian McKellen as Magneto. Then you have Aaron Taylor Johnson there with a chance to do a cameo there, because their family photo is all of them together with Billy and Tommy, and just like okay, that's all we have for this week. I'm sure there's more. We'll be watching New Rockstar's Easter egg hunt thing and probably Sunday morning. So let us know what you thought of this episode and our reaction to it. And we went long. I don't care. Let us know in the comments down below. Please be nice. There's a requirement around here. And if you know what the Ellis Rolling Hill street sign thing, please let us know in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notification to follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Sometimes Twitter. Oh boy, we need shots again. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.